Hi, I'm Vanessa from Ellie and Mac, and today we're going to have so much fun. I want to try all these details that I was thinking about to get ready for the holiday season, so let's just jump right into it. So one of my favorite things to do when I'm sewing is to take a new pattern and kind of treat it like a pizza and add all different toppings. I like to do this with very inexpensive fabric so I can see kind of what I can make with it and see if I can definitely upgrade it. Now with the holidays coming, I wanted to do something with lettering. I always see people with either all merry, peace, all sorts of things for the holidays. And I thought it'd be fun to give it a try. But right now it's not Christmas, so I went a little wild and I made myself more of a Thanksgiving themed outfit, which I know seems very odd, but I went for it because I found this orange fabric for super cheap. So I went for it, but definitely you can do this whether you're doing it for Christmas or for any holiday that is. And you can also do it if you're a sports fan, all sorts of things. So I wanted to really show you how to do this lettering because I thought it was such a fun thing to do. Now with this lettering, I found this velvet yarn. And I have done this where I've cut up French terry, but when I saw this, I knew that it was going to be absolutely gorgeous to give it a try. Now, if you've ever tried doing lettering, and especially with knits, you know that it can get sucked right into your machine. So I wanted to show you some of my tips that I like to use when I'm doing this sort of free motion work. So let's get right into it.
So first I just cut out the bodice of the Imogen top, and then I'm going to be using the reference lines of the bust as well as the center line of the top that you normally would fold it on when you're cutting, and then I'm going to be marking those in chalk. Now to get my lettering, I use just normal canvas, and this one you can use for free just because you're projecting it, and I picked the lettering that I liked and I made sure that it was center, and that's why I have the rectangle, is because I was able to see the center lines lining up with my chalk. And then I'm just taking my fabric pen and I'm just very gently tracing out the lettering. Sometimes it's kind of hard to see, so you have to shade your hand to see how it's coming along. And then I have some very cheap like kids craft paper that I cut the same size as my top, and I can clip around. This is going to help me use my free motion foot. It's going to prevent the fabric from being sucked in as well as give me full range of motion on my machine. Now I have my machine at a long zigzag stitch, and then I'm like completely thinking back to elementary school when I learned how to do cursive, because there are some lines that you actually have to come back twice, like if you're doing a loop or making an A, and so you want to make sure that you're doing those correctly, like you're actually writing cursive, because it does make a difference and you can tell. But using the really cheap paper really does help, and this is just so much fun and it's very easy to do. I've tried using it with pins, I've seen it used with glue, but for me I really just like to trace it out and then just use those long lines to make sure that it's going to be perfect. And using the zigzag stitch also gives it enough stretch. And then from here, I'm just going to be removing all of that paper. And some of it is just going to be a little hard to remove, so make sure you're not breaking the stitches, and you can always bring it back to your iron and just steam it off, and then it comes out pretty easy. Now, if there's paper left, just leave it. It's not worth ripping out those stitches, and it'll come out in the washing machine. But as you can see, it comes off really easy, and this is how the stitching turned out.
Isn't that so much fun? Like my brain is just going like, how many things can I add that lettering to make it too much? Now, the next thing I wanted to try with this Imogen top is to make it look like a layered look, like I had an oversized crop top over a dress. And so I added some bands, and I think that this was really fun. I was talking to Diana afterwards, and she's like, it'd be cute without the sleeves to make it more of like a sweater knit with the bottom. So I'm definitely gonna have to give that a try later. But as far as today goes, with the weather being colder, I definitely wanted to have the sleeves, and I kind of wanted all the fun. So I jumped right into this and I decided to add bands around the waist as well as around the arms. Now, another thing that I wanted to do is definitely make this a dress. So I'm going to show you how I made it more into an A-line dress and then how I wanted to keep that frayed edge for a fun hemmed detail. So let's get into the rest of this dress.
So let's get back to cutting the rest of my pattern out. So here I'm measuring, and as you can see, it's about 20 inches long in the bodice, and I want to do like an 80% stretch. So once I cut out the back bodice with my rotary cutter, I'm going to come back and I'm going to make a band. Now I decided that I wanted the band on this dress to be 2 inches wide, and so after I got done cutting the bodice, I made 4-inch wide bands, and I made it 80% of the fabric. So here I'm cutting that right here. So you're just going to use your quilting square to make sure that you have everything right, and then I'm measuring the 4 inches at the 16 inches long. And this is going to be my back band. Now I do this for all the bands and I'll show you exactly how. So here's the sleeve. So I'm going to be cutting out the sleeve, and I always make the triangle at the front of my pattern just so I know that that marking is always the front. And then once I have it all cut out with the sleeve, it's time to add that banding. Again, I wanted all the bands to match. So here's another 4 inches. And then I did again another 80%, so it would be a little tighter. Now the problem with this fabric is it's sheer and very stretchy, so it didn't hold in the woven fabric as much as I was hoping it would, but it was a good place to start and kind of see how I liked this little detail. So after I have the bands on the sleeves cut, it's now time to move over to the front bodice and cut the neckband. Now, this fabric, again, it's thin, it's rolly, so I made sure that my neckband was 2 inches, so I had a little bit more control at the serger because I knew this was going to roll really bad, and it did. So to finish up the front bodice, it does need a band. And so we are again doing the 80% stretch, and I'm doing it the full width of the band with 4 inches. So all the bands should be even. And I really love having layered details, and I think this is just so cute. I did want a more neutral fabric on the top because the plaid fabric is so bold and you can see it right here. I did get it 50% off, so I was very excited about that. It's flannel, it's very comfortable, but this much orange on me might be a lot. Now, to make this skirt, I did angle it out with my quilting square from the top about 4 inches. And so this is going to give me the perfect A-line skirt, and then I went a little straight around the top. And I wanted to keep that frayed edge detailing. I think it's so cute. So instead of hemming, I just made sure that after I washed this fabric and it got the cute little frayed edge, that I just used it. Now to get to above your knee, you're going to want it the length about 22 inches. And then if you want it a little longer from there, you can kind of go. And I am 5'5", and so that is the perfect length for me to get right above my knee is where I wanted it. Now, after I cut out both of those skirts, I'm going to, and there's the little frayed edge, I'm going to finish working on my bodice. So my lettering is done, and now it's time for me to add the back bodice on at the shoulder seams, and then to add that wider neckband, because as you can tell, this fabric is pretty thin. But that was the point of it, was to give me a chance to try out some of these really fun details that I normally wouldn't on some of my more expensive fabrics. So make sure that when you're doing the band, and the fabric is really rolly and really thin and not cooperative, that making it a little bit wider will give you the highest chance of success. But again, this fabric is really stretchy, so it's perfect for this. It's just gonna roll as I'm sewing it. So it took me a second to get on this neckband because it was so rolly. So here's my neckband completed. And then it's time to add on that front band. Now, normally I would sew the side seams together with all this, but because of the band and because of the skirt, we are actually going to add everything together because it's just a little bit easier. And there you can see the band is stretching. So I'm going to be basting on that band first because it's stretched on, and I want to make sure that it's stretched evenly because this is going to be sandwiched between the gathered skirt here. So I'm just doing a normal straight stitch at 5 millimeters going all the way across this front of this bodice. And as you can see, my machine is an AccuTension machine, and here with this fabric being so thin, it can't tell what the tension should be. Any tension on it is causing it to have a little ruffle. And so if your machine does something like this where you are kind of getting it a little ruffled on behind, don't just cut the threads, because this is just basted on. I kept the threads a little long so I could stretch out any ruffling here. And you can see those extra threads. Now, once I have the band on, it's time to add this gathered skirt. And this I just did with a 5 millimeter straight stitch, and it gathered really easily. And then I just made sure that my gathers were nice and even. And then you're just gonna clip it on like you normally would. And then normally I would base this again, but I didn't cut too much off, and so I went directly to my serger and just made sure that everything was looking even and I didn't accidentally cut into that gathered stitch. And it ended up working really well. Normally I do take a little more time, but with that band, I figured it would hide any inconsistencies in my gathering, but my gathering ended up working out really well. So that's a little tip if you're a little nervous to add the gather. Having it hid behind a band will help make it look more even. So once I got the front and the back done, it's time to finally finish up those side seams, and you want to make sure that your bands are lined up perfectly here first. Like, that is the most important part, is getting those bands in, and then you can come and do the top of the armhole as well as doing along the skirt. And this starts to come together really quick at this point, as you can imagine. So once I have the skirt all attached to the bodice, this is what my dress is looking like. And I think it's so cute. So I think if I was going to do this dress again after talking to Diana and then Jessica, I think what I would do is just add the sleeves with making them a little shorter with the band instead of adding the woven to the bottom, because it just did not hold in the woven as much as I was hoping, but because this is a nice big gathered beautiful sleeve, and I'm very excited about it. But if I were to do it again, I would make it more for a summertime and definitely just make the sleeve by itself. And so I'm going to be adding on this gather to the sleeve just like I did before, and just serging it on. And again, you know, with this gather, it's going to be hidden underneath the band, so it's not too big of a deal here, but I definitely do not want to catch that stitch or my whole gather will fall apart. So if it's gonna count, I definitely say go baste it. But if you want to be careful, it's doable for sure. And so once I get that all completely serged on, it's time to close up my sleeve. And so I'm just going to first be doing the flannel, and then I'm going to be doing the top of the sleeve. Now here you can see that fabric really nicely, and you can see why I picked that golden velvet yarn, because it's just that little detail inside of it that I wanted to pull out, because I really love the gold look of the yarn, and I thought it went perfectly with this plaid fabric. And there you see what my sleeve looks like, and it's turned right side out. I'm just going to be putting it on the inside of my dress. It's turned with right sides together, and so they're going to be both showing the right sides when I get them sewed on. So here it is with the sleeves with the cute little band, and then here I'm just going to be doing a stay stitch on that nice frayed edge. So this is just a normal 2.5 straight stitch all along the bottom, so I can maintain that cute little fray. And I think this is just such a fun detail for the fall season, especially with plaid. I love having just a little fray on the edge. And this dress has so much character. I just think it's just so much fun. So what I did with the sleeves is I added the casing with the elastic instead of doing the band. And this is how my thankful dress turned out with all the added details. And as you can see, this is so comfortable. I cannot believe it. I wore it to the store and everyone was just smiling at me. It is so fun.
Okay, is this Thanksgiving dress over the top? Absolutely. But I actually totally love it. As somebody who sews, and I think you probably can get this when you are crafty, sometimes you just gotta be over the top. And sometimes you're gonna show up and you're gonna be the most on theme person there. And that's the joys of sewing. And so, yes, does this look more like a second grade teacher themed dress? Absolutely. But I just wore this grocery shopping and I had so many people be so nice to me and smile at me that, you know what? I love it. I am going to be having so much fun wearing this dress all month long. And I hope that you found something to glean from this video that you can take and try to do some of these techniques with your own holiday sewing. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it so much. As always, a like and subscribe would be great. But if anything, just have a wonderful day. I'll catch you next time.